Let me finish my discussion of Chapter 9. So we talked about side effects, and now let's look right below that in the book at net working capital. So we are looking at changes in cash flow that are affected by the project if we undertake it. Net working capital is very important to the firm. If this project were to constrict working capital in some way, pull up some of the liquidity, or some other way bring some restriction to other options that the firm has, it may change the flexibility of the firm and therefore may not be acceptable, particularly if costs are higher or revenues are less. It also may interfere with some lending covenants that the firm has, and so they, in order to make sure that debts are paid and other expenses, which they're already obliged to, that those are paid on time. Working capital has to be maintained at a certain minimum level. The next one is financing costs, financing issues. There's a cost to borrow many times, and it can be significant. It isn't as much right now, but it could be in the future, or it could be for a company that has some credit issues, so their credit rating is a bit lower, pushing up, even today, pushing up their cost to borrow. So that is added in as an expense and assumption. One thing that's important to realize is that all of these different issues are because of these considerations of cash flow that are after tax positive, after tax negative, meaning costs have a tax deduction which reduces their impact, and revenues also would be helped or hurt by the tax bracket of the firm, the marginal tax bracket, and the other deductions they might have because of taxes. Let's turn to the end of Chapter 9. We see some additional considerations in capital budgeting, and these would be included as we consider the flexibility that the managers want to be locked in, and so that they got to see something to the end when it no longer appears that it's going to be profitable to do so, or as profitable as they need. Here we have contingency planning, plan A, plan B type of idea. This is part of the original plan, is what if some of our assumptions, and these are just some of the major ones, there are many minor ones, could also be changed. What if something gets worse? What if something gets better? And so we have the option to expand, which is right there, the section 9.7, page 297, or the option to abandon if it gets much, much worse. We need to be able to pull the plug if the project is it does not have the demand, does not have the revenue that we need to meet our expenses. It's going to subtract from shareholder value instead of add to shareholder value. And also we want to have the option to wait. Everything looks good, but there is perhaps consumer demand or customer demand is not expected to be there in the next 12 months. Let's put this work on the shelf. We have the flexibility to execute it after some delay, and they don't have to redo some of that work. And you see, the last two categories is about capital rationing. This is said to exist when the firm has positive NPV but cannot obtain the necessary financing either through equity or through debt. And so the project is good, there's not a problem, it meets all of our criterion, but the capital is not clearly available within a certain safety range, and so we may need to do half the project. There may be a reason to limit how much of the project. And then hard rationing, the situation, this is on page 300, right at the very end of the Chapter 9, the situation that occurs when a business cannot raise financing for a project under any circumstances, and everything needs to come to a stop, or at least we need to go to only the most important things, and the projects are all put on the shelf. This clearly is a situation in which the firm could be on the verge of bankruptcy, or having to do massive layoffs. This is a worst case scenario, but nonetheless, it is considered, and those business managers who have courage realize we need to take extraordinary measures to conserve the capital we have and not start new projects that will take away our flexibility to respond to market events.